I like to think that I serve a purpose in expanding your mind. Because if that's not what I'm doing, then I'm just some dude sitting in front of his computer talking for somewhere between like 5 to 20 minutes. I think that's the full range of what these videos have been over the first 6 months of this channel. Somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes about absolutely nothing. And I would hate for that to be the case because today I've got a really cool story for you, one that you probably didn't know existed. Something that in the world of football you probably didn't know even happened. And honestly, if I'd known this earlier, I would have attempted to have played in the lower leagues of France because that is where this is happening, in the lower leagues of France. And no, I'm not going to talk about Andy Carroll again. Although what is happening in the same division that Andy Carroll is playing in with Bordeaux. If you remember that story, or if you just have like a fetish for man buns, that, either or, whatever would lead you to keeping track of Andy Carroll playing for Bordeaux in the 4th division. Well, this is another team in the French 4th division that is up to a particularly large amount of nonsense. But more particularly, I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think there is another example of something this amazing and unique in the world of football. And I kind of already knew it existed, but not in this way. This has to do with the Coupe de France. Okay, now the Coupe de France is the FA Cup in France. I say that for my American brethren who, if you learn the sport, you typically learn what's happening in England first and then relate it to the rest of the world. So if you're one of those people, then here you go. It is the National Cup of France. It is structured in a bit of a different way. There are 6 rounds of kind of regional matches. The FA Cup has these qualifying rounds before, but the Coupe de France has different regions of France that play in these 6 qualifying rounds. And by the time you get to round 7, the professional clubs join and we are back to the national stage, right? But round 7 is when you get the big clubs join. But I say the big clubs, I mean the league clubs all join in round 7, all the way down to the 4th division, the pros. They all join in the 7th round, and all the teams that won from their regions or finished high enough in their regions to be able to qualify for the main draw into the 7th round, they are there. Well, I have now come to learn exactly how this process works for the parts of France that are not attached to France. Because you might not know this, but France has a very unique approach to not only obviously the Coupe de France. If you follow, cool off the beaten path football type stories, you've heard of this before, but I promise you I'm going a different direction with this. Something that I, as an appreciator of French overseas territories, did not know was possible. But the French overseas territories actually participate in the Coupe de France. Right now, this does not happen in England, which has plenty of overseas territories that are still a part of either the Commonwealth or literally a part of the government. Like the Rock Cup winner in Gibraltar does not all of a sudden appear in the FA Cup, right? The winner of the Cayman Islands Cup does not spawn in the FA Cup first round, right? That does not happen. Well, in the Coupe de France, it does, because France actually approaches these overseas territories not as British, overseas territories, which I think that's the way it's referred to, or any other country that has overseas territories. The United States does the same thing, right? Well, France actually approaches it as these are states in France. There's no overseas status here. France's largest border, you want me to blow your mind here with random fun facts with Zealand? France's largest border is with Brazil because of French Guiana. Yeah, you're going to fuck up trivia night with that one, because France's largest border is literally with Brazil. On a map, officially, legally, its largest border is with Brazil because of French Guiana. Now, these teams entering into round 7 go through the same process that any of the other non-fully professional teams go through, which is they play a regional tournament. New Caledonia, Tahiti, Martinique, Guadeloupe, French Guiana, Réunion. They all play a little tournament. And most of them only send one team to the 7th round of the French Cup. I think a few of the regions send 2. Some of the bigger regions with a better level of competition. It just depends on, I don't know, who Jesus himself, I don't know who allocates this stuff, right? The deposed king of France, whoever happens to be, descendant from Napoleon III. I don't know who they decided to make these decisions. right? But somebody's making these decisions in terms of how many people are actually able to get into the French Cup, which is good. Somebody has to. I would love to. I don't know where I apply for that. I've already applied to be the England manager. I might as well apply for that too. I'd give 5 spots to all of these countries. It's all about growing the game in New Caledonia, personally. But they all, the winners of these cups, they enter into round 7. Now, here is where the fundamental misunderstanding for me comes in. I believed that basically what happened is that these clubs would qualify and then travel to France. I was under the impression that it was mandated that if you were part of these outlying islands, these regions, these far-flung states of France, that you would need to then make your way to France in order to play these matches, no matter what the draw was, right? Like that you could not be drawn at home. But what has absolutely blown my mind is apparently I was wrong, or they changed the rule. I honestly couldn't quite find it. I searched for a little while, but what I do know, and I feel confident in saying, is that you can get drawn away against the French teams in this cup that are not in continental France, is how I'll say it. So it is possible to be a 4th division team in France, and you enter into the 7th round and you get drawn away to Tahiti. And the reason that I know that's possible is because that is literally exactly what has happened. You see, there is a club called Avranches who will be playing a club called AS Dragon in the cup on November 15th. AS Dragon is in Tahiti. This is a 22-hour away day. 22 hours of travel time to get to your away cup match for a 4th division club, which has spawned a couple of questions for me. Beside the obvious fact that this is awesome, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, how many people that grow up in Europe ever actually get to go to Tahiti? I mean, I know it's technically a part of France, but it's so far away. I know because I've looked it up. We've got that video series called Hidden Grounds on the main YouTube channel. We've only done 2 episodes, right, in the Bronx and the Faroe Islands, but the kind of travel show that we do. And I would love to do an episode in Oceania. It is just impossible unless you bust out the ancient sailboat to get there efficiently. It is so hard. It's like 3 flights. The Pacific Ocean's like 3/4 of the planet, it feels like, when you're looking at the travel times with that stuff. It is so hard to get down there. So, I mean, awesome for these guys to be able to get down there. Flip side, who's paying for it? Like, okay, I'm a Debbie Downer. I don't want to rain on anybody's parade because this is so awesome. I think it should be a part of the Coupe de France. I just hope that the French Cup is somehow subsidizing this, because there's no way that's cheap. Like, if you're a professional club in the 4th division of France, the budget is probably pretty tight. If you've ever seen those professional clubs that are kind of at the bottom professional level, there is not a lot of free-flowing capital. There's not a lot of loose change hanging around for if you suddenly get drawn to play a cup match on the other side of the world, right? And it is expensive to move an entire team and coaching and training staff to Tahiti to play 1 match. It's very expensive. You're not going to charter a plane. You're a 4th division French team. I hope somebody I don't know. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe that's a sign that I'm getting old. That my first thought when I saw this and I realized this was a thing was I hope somebody's helping fund it. I hope the Coupe de France recognizes the unique nature of being drawn away against Tahiti. Because these news articles, right, that I'm reading, right, I don't know how trustworthy these news sites are, but I've tracked down multiple of them that are talking about the fact that this team is traveling to France. They are drawn away in the draw. Now, when you go in here, it doesn't actually list where they're playing, but every available piece of news information I can find in Google Translate is saying that they are going to Tahiti. The reason I thought everybody went to France in the first place, like all these outlying islands would go into France to play their cup matches, is because I didn't think anybody wanted to deal with the travel costs of just having to randomly go to French Guiana for 1 match. It's in the middle of the week. It's like Friday. Which means you got to travel like Tuesday, Wednesday. But what I really want is for, I don't know what Avranches like fan situation is. I want somebody to make an away day out of this. Maybe we can get the YouTube channel Away Days to just try and do this away day. He's been killing it recently. He could probably pull it off, right? And just launch himself down into Tahiti and figure it out. That'd be great. I would love to see that. But this is happening. It happens on November 15th in Tahiti. They're just making a 4th Division club go all the way over here. Shout out to Avranches, though. They did make me look up the standings. They are in 3rd. And yet they are somehow in 3rd with 3 wins from 9 matches. So this entire league is confusing. There are 3 groups, by the way. There's 48 teams in the 4th tier of France. Avranches is stuck in that meat grinder. They are only 4 points out of the relegation zone right now. So maybe I'm overhyping what they've accomplished. Last year they lost in the 7th round to another team that is in their group, Les Herbiers. I took a guess at that. I don't know. And honestly, if you're going to find a match where you have no idea what you're going up against, you will not find a match where you have no idea what you're going up against more than this one. You are playing the winner of the Tahitian Cup. Mind you, Tahiti made the Confed Cup back in the day with a very domestically based squad. So those guys, they could go on the field against New Zealand and actually pick up a win. They might be dangerous. If I was going to play overseas, I'd at least want to play, actually, Martinique and Guadeloupe are pretty good too. There's not a terrible French overseas territory. That would scare me. You're going into the Dragon's Lair. Get it? Good for them. Hope it's fun. Hope someone's paying for it. Don't know why that's the first thing I thought of.